success is perseverance, balancing the steps. A problem is nothing but a challenge you accept. The power of yet is a song that I wrote for you. You can accomplish anything that you hope to do. Believe in yourself. Never say never. Practice makes perfect. Think about the positives and not the negatives. You can do great things and always remember there is power in yet. This is the power of yet. Don't you settle for less. If you just give your best, then you will have success. This is the power of yet. Don't you settle for less. If you just give your best, then you will have success. This is the power of yet. Don't you settle for less. If you just give your best, then you will have success. This is the power of yet. Don't you settle for less. If you just give your best, then you will have success.
All right. The power of yet. Okay, can somebody tell me what does that mean by raising your hand? Nathaniel.
That means that you can't do it now, but you can do it yet. You could do it back. You could do it in the future, or you could do it or try your best to do it.
Okay, somebody else want to add to that. LaKayla first, and then Janet.
Power means that you work really hard and you train yourself.
Right, Janet.
The power of yet means like you can't do it now, but you can do it later, and you could go or you could go on the future or on in the future or the future.
Okay, so yes, sir.
Try to.
You wanted to add something to that? Okay, that's good. So basically, what we're doing is we're transforming the way that we think. Okay, so we're going from saying I can't do that to saying I cannot do it yet. Because when we use the word yet, remember, it still says that we have the possibility of reaching the goals that we set for each other. But when we say we can't do it, right, we take away that possibility. And that's what's happening with a lot of our people, a lot of our young people today. You know, they keep framing in their mind that they can't do something. Okay, I can't do it. That's too hard. You know, so we're trying to go away from, you know, making statements like that. And yet, unless we put the word yet behind it. Because the truth of the matter is that sometimes when we get something for the first time, especially when the teacher is introducing a new subject, a new content area to you, yes, it's going to be difficult. Okay, because you haven't seen it before. You haven't done that type of work yet. But if you practice, okay, if you do your homework, okay, if you come in here with the mindset that I can learn and I can do better, then guess what? As you go through the process, it gets easier and easier. Okay, so today we ought to continue with what does the brain research teach us about how humans can grow their intelligence? Because that's what we're going from. You know, I've found it that in a lot of schools, we have students that are not motivated to learn. You know, and the reason they're not motivated to learn is because, you know, they may not have those models of success, you know, where they come from. And so for them, you know, success looks differently than everybody else. Okay? And they come from homes where it may be a fixed mindset, where they believe that you're born with what you got. Okay? You're either talented or you're not. Okay? You're either dumb or you're smart. And that's how, you know, that used to be the mindset of people years ago. That's what they believed. They believed that you were either smart or you were dumb. But Dr. Carol Dweck and her team started years and years ago. She started to study because she knew that was not right. She knew that that notion was not true. She knew that you get smarter because you work harder. Okay? And she wanted to prove that. And so she did all this research. you know, her and her team, some of the research was already done, you know, and she just looked at the results of the research, but she wanted to prove that, hey, we can help our kids better by changing the way they think about things. Okay? And so even when I started teaching, you know, back years then, that's the one thing that I noticed. I had kids that was coming to the classroom and they always raised their hand. Coach Wortham, you know, math is stupid. Why do I have to learn math? I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to work for my father. He's an auto mechanic. I already know what I'm going to do. Okay, because they had a fixed mindset and they were already at the point where they decided what they were going to do. And so school was not necessary for them. So I'm teaching to a group of kids that are not even motivated to learn. So I had to do something to change that. And so this is what I use. I use Dr. Carol Dweck's research to kind of help me to teach you guys how to change the way you look at things like your intelligence, your ability, and your talent. Okay? Because if you look at that in a different way, if you look at it like you can get smarter, if you look at it like you can develop, you know, your talent and make yourself even better, you know, if you look at it like you have the ability, you just have to practice to get better and better and better. If you look at it that way, then you'll have a different motivation about learning. Okay? So learning doesn't seem so far-fetched for you when you look at it that way. And so some of the research that I want to focus on is, again, a researcher is a person who has a question and they want to find out the answer. So you guys are researchers too, because if you have a question and you want to find out the answer, there are certain ways you can do it, Michaela. Like if you want to find out again if it is more warmer in April or October, what you can do is you can just check. You can make sure that you record the dates in every day in April, and then record the temperature every day in October, and then you divide that by the number of days that you had in a month, and you would have your average temperature for that month. Okay, and then you'll be able to tell which month is warmer by doing that, and that's what researchers do. Okay, they want to prove things, they want to see if certain things work. They have these questions in their mind, and then they want to ask that question. Yes, Caleb?
So about when you said that we like fixed mindset people aren't ready for the challenge, like, is it possible or like if they have somebody in their environment that is good,
That's a growth mindset.
yeah, that has a
Yes.
growth mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and if they have somebody with a fixed mindset in the same place, will they grow or will they will they go small?
Okay. Will they stay with the growth mindset, or will they develop a growth mindset? Now, that's where choice comes into play, because a lot of things that we're doing is we're making choices. With Caleb and Janet, a lot of things in life is all about choices. We're making choices. We're deciding to do certain things. Okay. Success is not something that just happens. Success is something that we work toward, Caleb. All right? So it's something that we work toward. So you're making those decisions. Okay? And so it depends on what decision does he make. Did he listen, or do he model the person that has the fixed mindset, or does that person model the person that has the growth mindset? Okay? And so, you know, and by them understanding what a growth mindset is, though, my hope is that if they're exposed to it, they would want to have that growth mindset, because the growth mindset allows you to grow and to get better. And I don't know anybody, is there anybody here that don't want to get better? That don't want to get better? Is there anybody in here that don't want to grow? Okay, one person, and Caleb made him take his hand up. Okay, but for the most part, most people want to get better. Most people want better opportunities. Okay, that's what I hear all the time when I listen to people. They want to get better. Okay, so the first one we want to look at is we want to look at the music mastery. When people play an instrument, they use a special area of the brain to move their fingers. For example, if they play the piano, you have to move keys with both hands. Okay, and that's difficult to be able to play the piano and organ. I used to get up there and try to play around with it. And I was like, man, this is tough, man. And I know some guys that can get on that Hammond B12 and they can do some things with it, you know. But so what the research tells us, though, is that motor cortex, that's the area, okay, that they're working when they're learning how to play instruments, especially with two hands. When we learn to play, that area grows larger. Okay? So that area, that motor cortex, it grows larger when the musicians learn how to play. Because it's a difficult thing to do, to make that organ, make that sweet, sweet music. And that Hammond, woo, well, that Hammond is like no other organ, man. I can sit in church and just watch. If you got a good musician that can play that organ, that Hammond, man, I could just sit there and listen to him play the Hammond. You know, so but that's why musicians tend to be, these guys tend to be pretty smart. They do, because of what they do. And then you talk about people like Prince. Man, he could play all the instruments. He could play everything. I remember when Prince first started, y'all probably don't know who Prince is, but when he first started, and he gave his demo, he gave his demo to a producer. The producer sat him down and said, hey, who is playing all these instruments? He said, I'm playing all of them. And he was like 16, 17 years old then. 16 or 17. And so the producer was like, wow, this guy's playing every single instrument on this song. Yes?
I know Prince, he died a year. Didn't he die a year ago?
Yeah, it was some, yeah.
And then my mom, I went to watch a concert with him.
Okay. So we know who he is. Yeah.
Who's
Yeah, that's like he was saying, he's a musician. He died last year. He was a very, very talented guy.
And popular.
And he was very popular. Yeah. But that's what I was saying. I was using him because, I was just to tell you, how brilliant this guy was, is that he could play just about any instrument that there was. And so musicians automatically get smarter because of that area, that motor cortex that they have to use, it grows larger. Every time they practice, that's why I tell y'all, you have to do your homework. You have to. Because the more you practice, the easier things get. Hold on. The more you practice, the easier things will get. Okay? So that's why it's important to do homework. That's why it's important that when we're doing our work here, that's why it's important that when something gets tough that you don't stop, you keep working on it. Okay? So we did that one. Learning languages. Learning languages. That was another one that they did, because learning the language takes a lot of time. But with practice, it becomes what? It becomes easier. It takes babies about 5 years to learn how to speak their language. To be pretty proficient at it. It takes them about 5 years to learn how to be pretty proficient at it. Because that when babies first come out, they make sounds. Goo goo, gaga, stuff like that. And so it's, most of them are like one or two when they can even say just one word. Dad, or mama, or something like that. Okay, so by the time they get 5, they're pretty proficient at their language. So it takes a long time to learn another language, right? And that's why in high school you have to commit 4 years to, if you take Spanish, you have to commit 4 years to it. French, you have to commit 4 years to it because it takes a long time to learn a language. And even then, in high school, after that many years, you probably won't be as proficient in it where you can just go to France and start, communicating. You probably still have to have some kind of guide to make sure that you're not saying the wrong thing. Okay? So language, they found out that, people learning languages, they grow a lot more connections because learning a new language takes a lot of work and effort. And then the last thing is and that's the thing, Caleb, they did a lot of studies with animals. So they did the studies with the rats, they did the studies with the chimpanzees, and they just did a lot of studies with animals because, animals, have, most animals anyway, they have a similar brain pattern, especially the chimpanzees. The brain of a chimpanzee and a human brain are very, very similar. Anybody remember what's the difference between the animal and the chimpanzee brain? Caleb, you had your hand raised.
The chimpanzee brain is bigger.
It's not bigger. It's what?
It's the same. It's almost the same to ours.
Okay, Janet.
Smaller.
Yeah, it's a little smaller. The chimpanzee's brain is about 2 pounds. Ours is about 3 pounds. But other than that, it's pretty similar. And so that's where you get the movies from, the Planet of the Apes. That's where you get the apes that are talking. Because they, scientists have already proven to us that the brain of a chimpanzee and a human is very, very similar. So they think that, maybe one day in the future that they probably will be able to do that because they continue to learn, just like humans do. We continue to do things that I thought would never happen. The thought of having a car that would drive itself when I was growing up, man, that was a ridiculous idea. There's no way that we're going to get a car that'll drive itself. Man, I have a car that'll park itself. It'll park itself. I'm scared to try it, but yeah, they say that all I have to do, if I get in a tight spot, I can press this button and I take my hand off the steering wheel, take my hand off, I kind of control, I take my hand off the gas pedal, and the only thing I have to do is just make sure, just in case, it won't break, that I have my feet somewhere near. But it'll actually parallel park the car for me. Okay? It's crazy. I mean, when I drive out of town now, I set my cruise control on the speed that I want, and I set it at how many links I want the car in front of me to be, right? So if I want it to be 2 car lengths in front of me, I set it at 2. 3 car lengths, I set it at 3 or 4 car lengths. And I set my speed, and I don't have to touch the brake or the pedal another time. When I went to Jekyll Island, back in February, that's what I did. I set it, and I didn't have to stop because it'll keep the car that's in front of you, even if the traffic slow down. Your car is automatically going to slow down enough to where it keeps that car in front of you 2, 3, or 4 car lengths away. So that was something that I thought was not possible. But now they actually got self-driving cars. Believe it or not, yes.
Yeah,
they have self-driving cars.
There's a Dodge that drives, and you don't have to touch anything. And my friend has one. My friend's dad has one. And when we went to Big Bear, he just let down a seat, and then he was laying down, and I said, "Why are you not steering the car?" And he said, because I don't have to drive it. And then it was moving by itself, so I said, cool.
Yeah, but it takes a long time. Hold on, it takes a long time to really get used to something like that because, man, you have now. They tried Uber in New York. They tried the first self-driving car with the Uber in New York, I think last year, but it had a major wreck. So they shut down the whole idea because you're still dealing with machinery, and for me, it's hard for me to really rely on that machinery. So, you know, my grandson asked me the other day, gee, Daddy, you gonna ever try that button right there? Let's try it now. I said, well, I'm not gonna try it. I'm not gonna try this. Yes.
Have you seen a talking car that moves on itself too? I saw it too. I think my cousin had one, the big one. My other cousin, she's like bigger than me. She's like 18 years old, and she told me that, like, she was like, oh my God, it can move steer all by itself. So it said, hello.
Yeah, they have, you know, they have the car. But they've been had the idea of the talking car. But I'm talking about the driving itself car. Okay? So, let's get back to the point because this is the last thing I'm going to say before y'all have your free time.
It's called auto drive.
Auto drive, yes.
It drives itself.
Right. Right. All right, this is the last thing because we're cutting into your free time right now. Oh, so the couch potato rats, this is what happened. The couch potato rats, they were only given food and drink. Okay, and the summer camp rats, they were given food, drink, toys, and exercise equipment. Okay, so they left them in their environment. They changed their environment. And they left them in the environment for a particular amount of time, right? So this is what they found out, Caleb and Janet. This is what they found out. The caged potato rats, they ate and drank and lay down all day long. That's all they did was eat, drink, and lay down. So they was basically lazy after that amount of time. But the summer camp rats, they were exploring how to use the toys and the equipment. They exercised their brain and they became smarter. And so after that testing period of time, they found out that the couch potato rats and the summer camp rats had a large difference in the number of connections that they had in their brain. And that meant that the summer camp rats were way smarter because they were in a challenging and engaging and learning environment. Okay? And so that's what we want to do. That's why I told you the other day, I don't want to cheat you. Because I'm cheating you if I just let you come in here and look sweet and nice and just pass you along. Because you're not learning anything. Okay? That's cheating you. Okay? And the last thing I'm going to say, that there was actually a case of a football player named Richard Dent. Years ago, he played for the Chicago Bears, and he was a defensive end, Caleb, because as you want to do that football thing, but Richard Dent was one of the best defensive ends or defensive tackles that ever played for the Chicago Bulls. And what happened was, I think I'm saying the right player's name, I hope I am, but what happened was this guy retired. He played a lot of years in the NFL, and he retired, and he didn't have any money left. And so what he did was he came back and he sued, because he went to high school, he went to elementary school, he went to college. So he went back and he sued all of those institutions because he could not read or write. And they just passed him along because he knew how to play football. So he went back and he actually won the case. He actually won the case because people just passed him along. He didn't know how to read or write. That's how he lost all his money. And so schools just passed them along. And it was their fault because they just passed them along. And so I don't want you to sue me. Right. So that's why I'm going to make you work in here. Okay? And if you see that grade and it say C or D or B or A, that's because you made the decision not to work hard and not me. All right? So, the brain research tells us that we can grow our intelligence, we can get better. No matter how talented you are, you can always get better. Just ask the person named Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. They were the best at their business, but they still continued to work harder than everybody else that played the sport of basketball. All right? All right, guys. Free time.